Good morning to all of you. Let us start the lecture. Yesterday, I finished with the design of IIR filters using impulse invariant method. And I have already done with the design of IIR filters using approximation of derivative. Right, today I will start with bilinear transformation, but let us have a look at the problems and the impulse, the brief idea about the impulse invariant design that we did yesterday. I will rush through these slides so that the things become okay. So let us now go rush through these slides. The IIR filter design using impulse invariant method involves the starting point is to have the system function in the analog domain. That means in the S domain, and from there you take the inverse Laplace transform to get the impulse response in the time domain. So once you get the impulse response in the time domain, you need to sample this impulse response by replacing small t with the n capital T. All right, where capital T is the sampling. It's not sampling frequency; it is sampling period. The characteristic property preserved by this transformation is that the impulse response of the resulting digital filter is a sampled version of the impulse response of the analog filter. So I discussed this yesterday. This is the impulse response of the analog filter, the frequency response of the analog filter, the sampled version of the impulse response, and we know that the once you take the sampled version of the analog impulse response, the digital spectrum will repeat with a period of 2 pi. All right. So we also, the major problem that I wanted to discuss is that there is a problem of aliasing in the impulse invariant method, and the extent of the aliasing problem will depend on the choice of the sampling frequency. If we choose a higher sampling frequency, the aliasing problem will be less, and if we choose a less sampling frequency, the aliasing problem will be more prominent. All right. The sampling frequency affects the frequency response of the impulse invariant discrete filter. So that's quite obvious. We know all these facts. All right, and this is the procedure to convert an analog filter to a digital filter using the impulse invariant method. For example, this is the transfer. This is the system function given in the S domain. You take the inverse Laplace transform, you will get the impulse response in the continuous impulse response in the time domain. Then you take this, then you do the sampling of this impulse response by replacing t with n capital T. So you will get this. Once you take the Z transform, this Z transform will be equal to 1 over 1 minus e to the power minus b capital T Z to the power minus 1. So this becomes the transformation. So the transformation in the impulse invariant method is that once you have 1 over S plus B, to convert it into a digital filter, I will use this transformation. The problem with the impulse invariant method we discussed yesterday also in detail is that the mapping of the S plane to the Z plane is actually it is given by this formula. Omega is equal to small omega, which is the digital frequency, is equal to capital omega, which is analog frequency, into capital T. So if you put the values of capital omega as minus pi by capital T, or if you put small omega values equal to minus pi and then pi, you will get capital omega values to be minus pi by T and pi by T respectively. So that means the point is that in this strip from minus pi by capital T to pi by capital T, this strip, the whole frequency, this whole space on the left side of the j omega axis will go inside the unit circle, and the other strips from pi by capital T to 3 pi by capital T will also go inside the unit circle, and so on. That's what I have written here. But the frequency interval pi by capital T to 3 pi by t also maps into the interval minus pi to pi, which is the digital frequency interval. And in general, so does the interval from 2k minus 1 pi by t to 2k plus 1 pi by t. All these strips will map inside the unit circle, and that will lead to actually the aliasing problem. Thus, the mapping from the analog frequency to the frequency variable small omega in the digital domain is many to one, which simply reflects the effects of aliasing due to sampling. So this was actually the problem in the impulse invariant method, right? And we took some examples also. If you take this example, you take the partial fraction, you will convert this system function into this form. And we know that 1 over s plus 1, in general, we have done is 1 over s plus b, right? 1 over s plus b is given by this. So I can get the Z transform equivalent of 1 over s plus 1 by this formula, and you just solve the formula. You just solve z further by taking the LCM and so on. You will be able to get the transfer function in the digital domain. All right. Similarly, another example, you take the partial fraction, convert it like this, convert it in the same form, 1 over s plus b, and then you can have the digital equivalent like this. And you further solve it, you will be able to get the transfer function in the Z domain, which is actually the digital equivalent. This is the digital equivalent. This is the digital filter or digital equivalent of this analog filter. All right. And so this is further how we can get the coefficients, how the coefficients are related. All those things are there. And I took also this example. This analog filter is given. This is a normalized filter. You need to denormalize it first. How to denormalize it? Replace every s with s by omega c, because we are given the cutoff frequency. Omega c, capital omega c is equal to 2 pi fc, which is 250 hertz, right? So you divide every s with s by omega c, right? The problem with this type of this system function is that if you try to calculate the DC gain of this filter in the digital domain, you will find that the DC gain is quite high, 1223, right? So such a large gain is a characteristic of impulse invariant filters. You can denormalize or you can reduce the gain. And to avoid overflows, how to reduce this gain? Just normalize this, divide the gain with the sampling frequency. The sampling frequency is given to be 1.28 kilohertz. So divide the whole equation, divide the gain with divide this gain with, because this is the you divide the gain, or you divide the transfer function with the sampling frequency. All right. That means you divide to keep the gain down and to avoid overflows when the filter is implemented. Is common practice to divide the gain by Fs. So you divide the gain by Fs, you will be able to achieve a transfer function which is quite a nice one, which is not giving you any overflows in the system. All right. So this is another approach of another problem to be handled in the impulse invariant method, but this is not the important problem at present. The important problem in the impulse invariant method is the aliasing problem. Okay, so how to get rid of or how to avoid the aliasing in the design of the digital filters from the analog filter. Now, the technique to avoid that is bilinear transformation, so which is the topic of our discussion today. The bilinear transformation yields stable digital filters from stable analog filters. The impulse invariant technique may not, because of various reasons, right? So it will yield digital filter. Once the analog filter is stable, so it will yield stable analog filters. All right. Also, the bilinear transformation avoids, this is very important, The bilinear transformation avoids the problem of aliasing encountered with the use of impulse invariant transformation, because it maps the entire imaginary axis in the S plane onto the unit circle in the Z plane. In the impulse invariant method, you have seen that the strips are being mapped to the unit circle, inside the unit circle. Whereas in the bilinear transformation, the complete j omega axis, the left side of the imaginary axis or j omega axis, will go inside the unit circle. So the mapping in bilinear transformation is 1-to-1. So that's what is explained in this diagram. The left side of the S plane, that means left side of the j capital omega axis, will go inside the unit circle, right? And therefore, that's why we say that the bilinear transformation always yields stable filters, whereas the impulse invariant method may not, because when the strips are being mapped to inside the unit circle, and there can be problem that the poles can go outside the unit circle, because some portion of the S plane, the left side of the S plane, is being cut into strips. So those strips will go into the unit circle, right? So there is a possibility that the poles can go outside the unit circle and will lead to an unstable system. But whereas in this case, since the complete j omega x, the left side of the j omega axis will go inside the unit circle, so there is a very less chance that the poles will go outside the unit circle. All right. So bilinear transformation is a better choice, and it of course avoids the problem of aliasing. Now this is the impulse invariant method, right? And whereas the strips will go inside the unit circle, whereas in the bilinear transformation, the left side of the complete omega axis will map into the inside of the unit circle. Now let us see the transformation, that how to actually design the digital filters using bilinear transformation. Let us start from a basic relationship between the Z transform and the Laplace transform. So this is the relationship Z equal how the Z transform variable, how the Z variable is related to S variable. This is the formula by which we can say that there is a relationship between the Z transform and the Laplace transform. This is the relationship, the Z variable and the S variable. So Z is given by e to the power S capital T. I can write this formula e to the power S capital T as e to the power S capital T divided by e to the power S capital T by 2 divided by e to the power minus S capital T by 2. So ultimately it will give me the same thing. And I use power series expansion for the numerator part and the denominator part. So I will get this. And I will now drop the higher order terms. And once I drop the higher order terms, my Z will be approximately equal to 1 plus S capital T by 2 divided by 1 minus S capital T by 2. So if I try to extract the value of S from here, so therefore S is equal to 2y capital T 1 minus Z to the power minus 1, 1 plus Z to the power minus 1. This is the formula. This is the bilinear transformation formula, which will be used to convert an analog filter to a digital filter using the bilinear transformation. Given any system function in terms of S, what you need to do is that you have to replace every S with 2 by T 1 minus Z to the power minus 1 divided by 1 plus Z to the power minus 1. So this transformation will give you the design of the digital filter in the design of the digital filter using the bilinear transformation. Let us see the examples. Here, this is the problem avoidance. What is the using the bilinear transformation? What we have been able to achieve? The price paid. What we have been able to achieve is the avoidance of aliasing. So there will not be any aliasing problem in the bilinear transformation, because the complete J capital omega axis is mapped to inside the unit circle. So no aliasing. But bilinear, since the complete J capital omega axis is being mapped to inside the unit circle, that will lead to distortion in the frequency axis. What is this frequency axis? The digital axis. This will lead to distortion in the digital frequency axis. We will see that. What does it mean? Aliasing is avoided, but there is a frequency distortion in the frequency axis in the digital domain. Analog domain will not be any problem, but in the digital domain there will be problem of the distortion in the frequency axis. I will talk about that. Okay. Now, consequently, the design of digital filters using the bilinear transformation is only useful. Now, this technique is very useful, but it is only useful when this distortion in the frequency axis can be compensated. Now, if we are able to compensate this distortion in the frequency axis, bilinear transformation by far is the best method for design of digital filters from the analog counterparts. Okay, so let us see one example. We have this system function in the analog domain, and it is given by HAS B over S plus B. So technique I have already explained to you, that you need to replace every S with 2 by T, 1 minus Z to the power minus 1, 1 plus Z to the power minus 1. Right, and that's what we have done here. We replaced this S with this transformation, and we further solved for HZ, and we got this relationship, which is the transfer function of the digital filter, of this equivalent, of this analog equivalent. All right. Now, to explain the frequency distortion that I was talking about, right, I am taking these values just to give an illustration that how the frequency distortion will look like. Why this frequency distortion is coming? Because the complete J capital omega axis is being mapped to the inside of the unit circle. Now, if we take B equal to 1000 and capital T equal to 1 by 1000, and we take how to get the frequency response of this analog filter, just replace this S with J capital omega. All right, that will give you the frequency response in the analog domain. We know that how to get the frequency response in the Z domain. Replace every Z with e to the power j omega. Right. So in the analog domain, the frequency response is given by h j omega is equal to b over j omega. Replace every s with j omega plus b. And if I plot this frequency response in terms of the magnitude response, that means I take the magnitude of this frequency response h j omega, I will get this shape of the magnitude response with respect to capital omega, which is the analog frequency. Now let us look at if we plot the frequency response or the magnitude response in the digital domain. How to get this magnitude response? Just replace this z with e to the power j omega, and you can put these values. Once you put these values, you will see that this frequency axis in the analog frequency axis goes asymptotically towards plus infinity, and in the negative side it goes asymptotically towards minus infinity. Right? That means this is the complete frequency axis. Now this frequency axis is being mapped from minus pi to pi in the digital domain, in the unit circle. Now once this mapping is being done, at the extremities the frequencies will be squeezed. So once the squeezing of the frequencies is taking place, that's why this broadening of the response. If you see this response, the frequency magnitude response is not same as the magnitude response of the in the digital domain. There is a squeezing from the ends of the frequency. That means the higher frequencies will be squeezed inside, So because of this squeezing, there is a broadening at the center. All right. So this is the distortion that I was talking about. Now let us look more into the details of how this squeezing, or what is the problem. Now there is a very important property of the bilinear transformation that can be seen in the above example. The entire frequency range of the continuous system maps into the fundamental interval of the discrete system. So that's what I have already explained, right? Now, okay, I will come to this slide maybe a little. Okay, let me start with this slide only, no problem. So this is the transformation. S is equal to 2 by t, 1 minus z to the power minus 1, 1 plus z to the power minus. Now let us, what we are doing is we are looking deep into the bilinear transformation problem of frequency distortion. All right. Now I have to enter into the frequency response domain. I have to do the analysis of the frequency response. So in the analog domain for S, I will put J capital omega. So I will put J capital omega. For Z, I will put e to the power J omega. So that's what I do here. I put S, the value of S to be J omega, and the value of Z to be e to the power minus J omega. And I get this formula. What is this formula? This is J capital omega equal to 2 by T J tangent of omega, small omega, which is digital frequency, by 2. Or this analog frequency capital omega is equal to 2 by T tangent of small omega by 2. Right? So this is the formula, this is the relationship we have been able to obtain if we apply the bilinear transformation. This is the relationship that we will get between the analog frequency and the digital frequency. And I can also write this formula as small omega equal to 2 tan inverse of capital omega t by 2. Either way you can put. Now let us try to plot the transfer characteristics between small omega and capital omega. That's what is done here. I am plotting for small omega on the y-axis and capital omega t, capital T, on the y-axis. Now if you see here, for the lower frequencies, the relationship between small omega and capital omega is linear. At low frequencies, when the value of omega, capital T are low, tangent, we can approximate tangent inverse to be capital omega t by 2. So that means the relationship between small omega and capital omega is linear for low frequencies. And we that means small omega is equal to, if we use this formula, when I say that tan inverse omega capital T by 2 is equal to omega capital T by 2, so that means what is my omega? My omega is equal to my digital frequency is equal to analog frequency into, which is our usual relationship, between the digital frequency and the analog frequency. But this is true only for the low frequency. All right. Actual relationship is this relationship. If we use bilinear transformation, we get this we get this relationship between the digital frequency and the analog frequency. Now we say that for smaller values of analog frequency, tangent inverse we can approximate to tangent inverse theta, okay, we can approximate to theta only. That means if we take theta to be capital omega capital T by 2, so what is my small omega? Small omega will come out to be capital omega T, which is our usual. So that's what, for low frequencies, this relationship appears to be linear in this graph also. But when the frequencies increase, you see there is a suppression. There is a the digital frequencies are being squeezed inside. When the analog frequency is increasing, digital frequencies are being squeezed inside, because the digital frequencies have to remain inside this fundamental period of minus pi to pi only. Because of that, the higher frequencies are being squeezed on the positive small omega axis also, and on the negative small omega axis also. That is the frequency distortion problem. We see that a nonlinear relation exists between capital omega and small omega. So this is not linear. When the frequencies go high, when the analog frequencies go high, this relationship is not linear. That means there is a squeezing of the digital frequencies, right? And this effect is called warping and is shown below. This effect of squeezing of the digital frequencies. Once we apply the bilinear transformation, this effect is called warping, where what is happening? The digital frequencies are being squeezed within the fundamental period from minus pi to pi. And this effect is called warping. Now, as I said, bilinear transformation is a very useful technique, but if we can compensate for this effect, this is a very good technique. That means we have to, warping is there. Warping is frequency distortion, the digital frequency axis distortion, but we need to compensate. If we apply the compensation, that will be called as pre-warping. Pre-warping. Let me explain you what we will do. What we will, for example, if you pass certain material, certain steel material from furnace, all right, and because of the temperature, you know that, or let me take it not because of the not into the furnace. Let me pass the steel material through a cooling section. Now, if I pass the steel material through a cooling section, the material will squeeze. The material will contract. Once I pass the material through the cooling section, the material will contract. All right. Now, but I have to compensate for this contraction. So what I will do is that I will expand the material before passing it through the cooling section in the same amount that if I pass the material through that cooling section, in whatever the amount the cooling section will contract it, I will, before passing it through the cooling section, what I will do is I will expand the material in the same proportion, so that when I pass the material through the cooling section, even if the contraction is taking place, my material does not change the original shape. I hope the analogy I have been able to make is clear. What we will do is that, because bilinear transformation will warp the frequencies, what we will do is that we will do the compensation and we will pre-warp. What is pre-warping? We will increase the frequency. I will explain you what is pre-warping. So that is basically the compensation that we will apply. Using the example, I will explain. All right. Now there is a great advantage of warping, which is that no aliasing of the frequency. Of course, the warping is there, but aliasing is not happening, which is that no aliasing of the frequency characteristics can occur in the analog filter to a digital filter, which we encountered in impulse invariant method. We must, however, check carefully just how the various characteristic frequencies of the analog filter fit into the characteristic frequencies of the discrete filter. We can illustrate this with the help of a diagram. Let's see what is the diagram. The system has got stuck, no problem. Let's wait for some time. Okay. Let me All right. Yeah. So we were on this slide. Let me come to this slide now. This is the frequency warping effect only. Let me explain, because this diagram is given in John G. Proctor's digital signal processing book also. So let me explain this diagram. This axis is the analog frequency. What we are dealing with, we are dealing with a band pass filter. All right. So this is the this is actually the analog frequency axis along the x-axis. The y-axis is for small omega, which is the digital frequency. All right. So this is the origin where my cursor is. This is the origin point. And if you see in the analog filter response, now this is the band pass filter. On the positives, on the right side of the small omega axis is the band pass characteristics of the filter, and on the left side is just the replica of the band pass characteristics on the negative side. All right, so this is basically a band pass filter. Now I take the frequency points as omega 1, omega 2, and omega 3 in on the digit on the analog axis. All right, and I know that these are the characteristics, or these are the transfer characteristics we have already seen. Between these transfer characteristics are giving me the relationship between small omega and capital omega once we apply the bilinear transformation. Now, correspondingly, if I try to get the points in the digital domain, this capital omega 1 point, if I get the intersection here, and if I try to, and this is my digital frequency point. So this is omega 1. This small omega 1 is the digital frequency point. This capital omega 1 is the analog frequency point. Now I will go for the capital omega 2 analog frequency point. Now if I try to draw the small omega 2 point from these graphically, from these transfer characteristics, I will get this small omega 2 as the digital frequency point, right? And omega 3 I will get here, and if I try to get try to plot the digital frequency point, I will get this omega 3 as the. Now you see this omega 1 see the gap between capital omega 1 and capital omega 2 and capital omega 3. This is a wider gap. Now you see the gap between small omega 1, small omega 2, and small omega 3. The characteristics are same. It's giving me the digital filter response, right? But the problem is that frequencies are being squeezed within the minus pi to pi range. This effect is warping. Actually, this is a very nice diagrammatic explanation of the warping effect, which is explained in Proctor's book. So I thought, I must put the diagram here also. All right, the same effect which I talked, which is warping. And I have already explained to you that we need to pre-warp. Let us see, and let us try to explain. Let me explain this through this example. Now, in designing a digital filter by this method means by the method of bilinear transformation, we must first pre-warp the given filter specifications to find the continuous filter to which we are going to apply the bilinear transformation. Now, the specifications of the desired digital filter. So these specifications are given for the desired digital filter, whatever we want. What are the specifications? Sampling frequency is given to be 8 kilohertz. So I can find out the sampling period also, which is 125 microseconds. This is for the band pass filter. A pass band up to this is for the low pass filter only. A pass band up to FL. So up to FL is the 2.6 kilohertz is the pass band. That means this is the cutoff frequency you can take, right? And if I try to calculate omega L, what is omega L? Omega L will be given by, because this is the digital filter we want. All right, so 2.6 kilohertz is the desired. So if I this is the analog frequency that we will, this is the digital frequency that we'll get in omega L, 2 pi f, L by fs. All right. And this, okay, let me explain, let me try to explain you again. Fs is the sampling frequency. It is 8 kilohertz. All right. This 2.6 kilohertz is given, this is what we want, all right, for our digital filter. If I try to put this 2.6 kilohertz in the analog frequency, right, because I want this frequency, this passband I want, I put 2.6 kilohertz here, I put fs value 8 kilohertz, and I get omega L to be 0.65 pi. Similarly, for the stop band, I use FU, which is 3 kilohertz. I use 3 kilohertz here. I use 8 kilohertz, which is sampling frequency. I get omega U here, 0.75 pi. All right. Now, if I use these frequencies, if I use these analog frequencies, for right, and I apply the bilinear transformation, I will not get these frequencies in the digital filter, because I know that because of warping, the frequencies will be squeezed. I need to compensate. How should I do the compensation? I need to apply this formula. That means I must use some analog frequency which is not 2.6 kilohertz, but it should be higher than 2.6 kilohertz. So that when that higher frequency is subjected to bilinear transformation, because of pre-warping, the frequency should come out to be 2.6 kilohertz. If I use 2.6 kilohertz only, then I may get 2 kilohertz. But if I will use some higher frequency, I will get to 2.6 kilohertz. Now, what should I use? I must use from this formula. This analog frequency I must use, which is omega L. How to calculate it? 2 by T tangent of omega L by 2. This is the same formula which we derived. This is the formula. The analog frequency is related to the digital frequency. This, let me explain you in detail. 2.6 kilohertz we want in the digital filter, but I cannot use to design the digital filter from the analog filter with the same specification. I will have to increase the frequency in the analog domain. How to increase the frequency in the analog domain? I must use this formula because of the warping problem. I know that warping will happen, my frequencies will be squeezed. I must increase the frequency using this formula. So when I use this formula, my FL comes out to be 4.155 kilohertz and my FU comes out to be 6.148 kilohertz. Instead of 2.6 and 3 kilohertz, I use 4.11 and 6. Then I apply the bilinear transformation. Now if I apply the bilinear transformation, I will, because of warping, because of the distortion in the frequency axis, for the digital filter, I will obtain 2.6 kilohertz and 3 kilohertz. This is known as frequency compensation or pre-warping. All right, so let us see if it is there in this example. Determine using bilinear transformation technique the transfer function. We need to determine the transfer function of the digital filter and difference equation for the digital equivalent of this RC filter. The normalized transfer function is given. Sampling frequency is given to be 150 hertz and cutoff frequency is given to be 30 hertz. So this is a low pass filter. This is the system function, analog system function for a low pass filter whose cutoff frequency is 30 hertz. Right? We want a digital equivalent of this using the bilinear transformation we have to design. Now, what is omega C? Omega C is capital Omega C, capital T, So I will get omega c value in terms of pi, in terms of radian, right? Because please remember, digital frequency has no units. Capital omega c has units of radians per second, but this is a unitless quantity because this is a ratio of two frequencies, right? So I must get omega c in terms of pi, but this is pre-warp, before pre-warping. Why? Because I am using a cutoff frequency of 30 hertz, which is given to be 30 hertz. So my digital frequency has to be 0.4 pi before pre-warping. All right. Now I have to use the bilinear transformation. So when I have to use the bilinear transformation, I need to know what is my omega c, capital omega c value. What should be my capital omega c? My small omega c value has come out to be 0.4 pi. But what should be my omega c, capital omega c value? So that once I apply the bilinear transformation, I must compensate for the effect of warping. How to get that omega c value? Using the same formula. Use the same formula of, you will get this using the same formula of 2 by t tangent omega by 2. Use the same formula, you will get capital omega c, and from capital omega c you can find out fc dash, and it will be 34.68 hertz. Unwarped frequency will be 30 hertz, which is given. Warped frequency will be 34.68 hertz. From where this has come? This has come from this formula. Omega equal to 2 by t tangent of omega, small omega by 2. What is small omega here? Small omega is 0.4 pi. So you know capital T. What is capital T? Capital T is the sampling period. Sampling frequency is given. So that means you can find out omega c, capital omega c, right? Once you know capital omega c, you can find out capital omega is equal to 2 pi fc. Capital omega c is equal to 2 pi fc. You can find out fc. Now what is fc in that case? In that case, the fc that you will get is 34.68 hertz. This is the frequency. Once we have once we have applied the once we have applied the compensation. Now I will use this capital omega c. Now the d, because if you see this transfer function is a normalized transfer function because 1 is here. I need to first of all denormalize it. How to denormalize it? I must use I must replace s with what? S by omega c, capital omega c. Which capital omega c I must use? I must use capital omega c dash, which I have obtained from this formula for this formula, right? So I will use this. I will denormalize the transfer function by omega c, by replacing s with s by omega c dash. So this will be s plus, this will be replacing s, this s with s by omega c dash. Why omega c dash? Because that's the compensated frequency. So once you can verify the calculations. So once I do that, then because now I get the analog transfer function, the required analog transfer function. Now I apply the bilinear transformation. Replace this s with 2 by t, 1 minus z to the power minus 1, 1 plus z to the power minus 1. So once I do that, I will get the transfer function in the digital domain. I think I have one more example. Let us look at this example also. This is the Butterworth example. This is a low pass Butterworth filter. All right. This HS is given. This is a normalized one. This has to be put into denormalize. How to denormalize it? Replace S with S by capital omega C. Now, which capital omega C I must use after the compensation is applied? what is the cutoff frequency given? Cutoff frequency given is 150 hertz. So cutoff frequency is 150 hertz. From there I calculate omega c. Omega c is 15 by 6. This example actually explains everything. This omega c is 15 by 64 pi, and I have to obtain the analog frequency now. What analog frequency I must use so that the warping effect is compensated. I denote it by omega c dash, and I calculate by 2 by capital D tangent of omega c by 2. What is omega c? I have calculated 15 by 64 pi. So it is 12. From where this is from where this 1220 has come, because 2 by t I can say it is because sampling frequency is given to be 1280 hertz. So that's why 2 into 1280 hertz tangent of 15 pi by 64 divided by 2. So this frequency I get after compensation, and from here I can get the fc dash also. So this is a good example. Actually you can use this example to solve the previous example also. Fc dash is always greater than fc. Fc is the original cutoff frequency. Fc dash is the compensation that we have applied. So Fc dash will always be greater than Fc. So I will use this omega c dash now, which I have obtained as 2 by t 0.3859 to denormalize my transfer function. So I denormalize the transfer. How to denormalize it? Replace every s with s by capital omega c dash. So once I do that, I will get the analog filter, right? And I'm finishing now. I now apply the bilinear transformation. I replace every s with bilinear transformation, and I will get the digital filter pre-warm, right? So that is the procedure of designing the design of IIR filters using the bilinear transformation. I am going to upload this presentation on LMS. So you go through the presentation. If some more points will be there, I will cover in the next lecture. But all in all, this is the design of IIR filter. I will take little more some more examples to explain you the major points. But this is the presentation that I will upload, and you can use this presentation for the design. If you have any questions or doubts, you can ask. All right. So at present, I'm finishing here. We have another lecture at 11:20. Sure, I'm leaving. Thank you so much for joining. If you have any questions are there, then do that. Thank you so much.